응. 형님하고는 어떻게 안지 오래됐어? 긴 시간은 아닌데 짧게 금방 빨리 친해졌어. 맞아. 그 애들하고 유명한 거 하나 있잖아. 제시 데리고 하와이로 가고 막 네, 유주 데리고 여기로 신을. 나 제시가 중국 삼성 온다고 하니까 지금 기다리다가 오늘 학교 가야 돼가지고. 뭐 대학교 들어가. 축하드립니다. 아유 아니 내가 지금 클럽 공부 아니야? 검정고시를 치고 뭐? 2학년 연말필이에요. 패션 쪽으로 해서 들어가지고. 이거 쉽지 않아. 이거 물어가는 거냐 안 물어가는 거냐? 전혀 안 물어가는 거야. 물어봤어. 엄마. 재물은 자식이 어떻게 돼? 첫째 딸, 둘째 아들 둘이 있으면 유일성이 있죠. 지금은 사춘기이긴 하지만 그래도 조금 무난하게 넘어가는 것 같은. 우리 집은 사춘기 금지 단어야. 금지요. 아예. 왜냐면 이거를 사춘기라고 얘기를 하면 얘네들은 진짜 자기네들이 사춘기인 줄 알고 더 빠져나가. 막 반항하려고 그러고. 그런데 너네는 사춘기가 없을 거야. 아빠가 사춘기 없이 자랐기 때문에 이거는 사춘기도 유전이래. 그래서 사춘기가 없이 자랄 거야. 그러니까 얘네들은 그래서 자기네들이 진짜
A young man wearing a formal suit jumped down directly below. He successfully parachuted down in front of a car, only to see the young man raise his head to look at the tall building in front of him and then adjust his expensive suit. Matan was confident that even without his father's help, he could succeed in his own way. Matan wore a custom-made suit and $1 billion watch. Then he walked into his rival's company with his head held high. Entering the office, Matan quietly found a seat. He thought to himself that this was the feeling that a normal new employee had. When coming to a new company, of course, he needed to know his colleagues first. But Matan had a habit of putting his hands behind his back, so when he started talking to his colleagues, it looked like he was giving orders to his subordinates, because he was a true chaebol by nature. But Matan did not want to live dependent on his father, so he gave up his right to inherit billions of dollars to work for hire and learn life experience. The next day, he did not parachute
Good
from the
morning.
plane anymore, but chose to take the bus like other office workers. He looked at the crowded bus next to him and suddenly felt emotional. If he always lived under his father's protection, he would not be able to experience this kind of life. Then Matan pressed the bell to stop the bus, but
I'm
the driver told him not to
fine,
press the bell
Indra.
anymore. Only then
Thank
did he
you.
remember that he had booked the entire bus.
How
Taking
about
advantage of
you?
his free time, Matan quietly went to the vending machine. His colleagues hid to the side and peeked. Matan opened his wallet. Inside were all large bills. He read the notice and saw that the vending machine only accepted small change. Matan started pressing the bell randomly. Unexpectedly, his colleagues misunderstood that he had no money but still wanted to drink coffee. Suddenly, Matan turned back to look at the sky and told his parents that he was fine. His colleagues were shocked and thought that his parents had passed away. Suddenly, they felt sorry for him. They had no idea that Matan's rich parents were following him with a drone. When it was time to get off work, the secretary came to pick up Matan. This scene was accidentally seen by Deputy Head of Department WY. The secretary wanted to invite Matan to go with him, but he didn't want to. He took out his wallet and asked the secretary to change some small change for him. After the secretary received the money, he still insisted on taking Matan home. Deputy Head of Department Y saw this and misunderstood that this orphan boy was involved with gangsters. As a superior in the company, Deputy Head of Department Y couldn't help but help Matan. He grabbed a handful of dirt and stepped forward, swinging his arm to throw it at the secretary. Then he hugged Matan and left. He comforted Matan and took Matan to a snack shop. Seeing the young man not eating anything, Deputy Head of Department Y felt very strange. Matan said that he had never eaten snacks before, making Deputy Head of Department Y think that he had no money to buy food. Deputy Head of Department was so touched that he wanted to cry. He felt that Matan was too pitiful. Then Deputy Head of Department Y asked Matan where he lived. Matan said that he lived in a small house. After listening, Deputy Head of Department Y sincerely advised him still a young man, and it was okay to live a hard life. When Deputy Head of Department Wee first came to Seoul, he also lived in a very small place, but now he has moved to a bigger apartment. Matan seemed to have learned a lot. He returned to his small room and looked around. Indeed, compared to his seniors in the company, he still had to work harder. The next day, Matan tried a street stall for the first time. Unexpectedly, he took one bite and was surprised by the taste of this dish. Matan Matan quickly asked the owner if this delicious dish contained any secret recipe. Unexpectedly, the owner said that it only required a little skill and diligence. Matan silently nodded and remembered. Suddenly, a drunk girl named Kanmi walked in. The secretary quickly stopped her and said the place was fully booked, but Kanmi ignored him. She used her hand to push him away. Then Kanmi sat down and asked the owner to bring out the chicken gizzards, but Matan had ordered all the chicken gizzards. The secretary saw that Kanmi was drunk and starting to go crazy, so he quickly walked over and told her to go home. Unexpectedly, Kanmi grabbed him and threw him away. When Matan saw the girl walking towards him, he quickly picked up the table and blocked it in front of him. Kanmi used one hand to knock the table away and then sat in front of him. Matan was almost so scared that he cried, but the aroma of the chicken gizzard in Matan's mouth attracted Kanmi's attention. When Matan saw Kanmi slowly approaching him, he had to cover her mouth with chicken gizzard. The chicken gizzard fell on the ground and saved Matan. After finishing the chicken gizzard, Kanmi left with satisfaction. She didn't forget to bow and thank Matan. The next day, Kanmi woke up drunk in the bathroom. She went to the company and saw Matan there. She didn't think he was the new employee. Kanmi quickly covered her face with her hair and secretly hoped he wouldn't recognize her. Unexpectedly, Matan called her name. Kanmi didn't have time to think about why Matan knew her name. She panicked and covered her hair and found an excuse to run away. But Kanmi clumsily dropped something. Seeing the scene in front of her made Matan confirm that he didn't mistake her. Kanmi was the girl from last night. Kanmi almost forgot all her memories, but she still remembered that there was a certain pair of lips. Kanmi was shocked and thought that she had kissed Matan, but she wasn't sure if it was real or a dream. Kanmi's best friend said that she had a way to confirm. She told Kanmi to sit in front of her. Then she took out her work card and waved it in front of Kanmi. After she snapped her fingers, Kanmi fell asleep immediately. In the dream, Kanmi and Matan had already developed to the point of buying a house. The best friends were shocked when they heard that the two were so close that they were living together. Then they saw Kanmi puckering her lips and kissing forward. Kanmi was immediately beaten up by her best friend. Tonight, the whole room went out to eat. Kanmi was worried that Matan would recognize her, so she decided to wear a mask, which made her superiors angry. Her superiors scolded Kanmi and made her take it off. As soon as Kanmi took off her mask, she saw Matan sitting right across from her. Kanmi quickly picked up the menu and pretended to order. Unexpectedly, her colleague grabbed the menu to order. Kanmi had no choice but to raise her beer glass in front of her. Matan reached out to put the beer glass aside, but their hand strength was different. Matan had no choice but to call Kanmi's name, but she still pretended that nothing had happened. Matan said that after what happened yesterday, he would always remember her. Then Matan called out Kanmi's name loudly, causing the colleague to almost find out. Kanmi followed Matan out in confusion. Unexpectedly, Matan took a letter out of his pocket. Kanmi suddenly felt embarrassed. She thought it was a love letter, so she happily accepted it. Then Kanmi got in a taxi to go home. She eagerly opened the letter to read it, but the letter contained details about the story at the roadside restaurant last night. It was not a love letter at all, but a letter in which Matan asked her to pay compensation. Kanmi suddenly burst into tears. Before, she thought that Matan would take care of her. Kanmi unconsciously cried. She bit her fist. It was because of him that she was in debt. At this time, because she didn't have enough money to pay compensation, Kanmi decided to help Matan with the housework to pay off the debt. She had just finished and was about to go home when suddenly a bolt of lightning struck the sky. Kanmi's stomach also growled because of hunger. She was a little embarrassed. She didn't expect her stomach to growl at this time, but Matan didn't care at all. He even smiled and invited her to stay for dinner. When Kanmi heard that it was free, she accepted. Really like free meals. Matan clapped his hands, but no one answered. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. He was embarrassed to remember that this wasn't his house, so there was no waiter to bring food. So they decided to order fried chicken to eat at home. Kanmi said that she wanted to lose weight, but her hand picked up a piece of fried chicken. Seeing Kanmi eating so vulgarly made a person with a cleanliness disorder like Matan want to go crazy. He couldn't help but ask her if she wanted to wipe her mouth with a tissue. Unexpectedly, she used her hand to wipe her mouth. Matan put on gloves and took out a tissue. He was serious, as if he was performing surgery, but suddenly Matan looked at Kanmi's face. His heart beat faster for no reason. At this moment, the door opened. Matan's mother came to visit him. His mother felt that this scene was a bit unusual. Kanmi reacted in time. She quickly said that she was just Matan's colleague. At this time, Matan told Kanmi to pack her things and she could leave. Unexpectedly, his mother was even more surprised when she heard the two words things. She thought that the two of them had started living together. Her son wanted to move out because of this girl. Matan's mother immediately picked up a bottle of water and threw it at Kanmi. Matan looked at the water stain on the ground and wanted to go crazy, but his mother refused to give up. She started aiming at the target. Kami dodged left and right. Suddenly, Matan stood up to block her. Kami looked at this sturdy back and was almost moved to tears. Kami suddenly felt that Matan was extremely handsome. Who would have thought that he would say that he was just afraid that his carpet would get wet and smell bad? Then Matan quickly ran to the side. He took out a rag and started mopping the floor. Matan's mother was extremely angry. She told her secretary to go buy kimchi and bring it back. When Matan heard about kimchi, he threw the rag aside. Kami was touched again because this man was angry on her behalf. He looked very elegant. Unexpectedly, the next second, he angrily said that the smell of kimchi was very difficult to clean. At this moment, Matan's mother seemed to have calmed down. She sat down on the sofa and apologized to Kang Mi. Then she ordered her secretary to take out a paper bag and told Kang Mi to take it. She quickly waved her hand to refuse, but her body unconsciously rushed towards it. Kang Mi tried to restrain herself from taking the paper bag. She had to save face. Matan walked over and told Kang Mi to take this money. She could use it to pay off her debt. Unexpectedly, his mother stood up when she heard the two words, pay off debt. She thought Kang Mi was the kind of despicable girl who would approach her son for money, so she sent her secretary to buy kimchi under her mother's threat. Matan could only tell her the truth. Matan's mother looked at Kang Mi with a gentle expression and asked Kang Mi. Then she turned to look at her son and blamed him for making this girl do hard work just for this small amount of money. How could she become the owner of the power group? This sentence attracted Kang Mi's attention. Matan panicked and told his mother that he could not reveal his identity. She quickly took out a handkerchief to wipe her sweat. Unexpectedly, the handkerchief had the power group logo printed on it. Kang Mi had also seen it in time. Matan's mother quickly threw the handkerchief away and said that she had picked it up on the ground earlier. Matan quickly continued. He took out his handkerchief and gave it to his mother, saying that she should not pick up things on the ground and use them again. Unexpectedly, this handkerchief also had the group logo printed on it. The two of them had a hard time fooling Kang Mi. After that, everyone went out. Matan's mother, out of habit, invited Kang Mi to ride in her car. Kang Mi was surprised by this luxurious car. When Matan's mother saw this, she quickly said that this was a used car she bought. Her family had 3 used cars. Matan looked at his mother helplessly. He hoped that she would be quiet. Matan quickly pulled Kang Mi to another place. The two of them watched the car leave before they dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Hopefully, Matan's identity had not been revealed. Unexpectedly, the car suddenly stopped. Kang Mi turned around and asked Matan if he was from the power group. It turned out that the driver had told her everything in the car. Matan felt extremely hopeless with his family. This girl suddenly felt something strange under her shoes. She lifted her foot to look, and it turned out to be a spider. Then, the two of them quickly hugged each other and fell down together. At this moment, another girl appeared. The girl looked at the position of the two of them and immediately felt embarrassed. He started to panic. He pushed the girl on top of him down, but it was too late. Hae-young turned around and left. San-sik's mood exploded at this moment because Hae-young was the person he had liked for the past 5 years. It turned out that San-sik and Na-rae were colleagues in the same room. Coincidentally, the two of them became neighbors. As a result, the same misunderstanding happened. The next day when she arrived at company, Sang-sik pulled Na-rae to a corner and asked her to explain yesterday's misunderstanding to Hae-young. Na-rae was extremely angry hearing that. What did the two of them have to do with her? But Sang-sik couldn't let it go so easily. He said that it was because Na-rae suddenly jumped on him that the misunderstanding happened. Na-rae wanted to explain this, so she lifted her shirt to show Sang-sik that she was really allergic to spiders. But at this moment, Hae-young opened the door and walked in. She apologized for disturbing the two of them. After saying that, Hae-young turned around and left. Sang-sik wanted to run after her to explain, but it was too late. At this moment, Sang-sik thought of something. Suddenly, Na-rae moved next to his house and suddenly took off her clothes in front of him. Could it be that Na-rae liked him? Na-rae was furious when she saw Sang-sik's delusions. She didn't want to say anything more, so she left. Na-rae looked for Hae-young and explained that she had nothing to do with Sang-sik. Unexpectedly, Hae-young said that she didn't misunderstand anything. Na-rae wondered why Hae-young suddenly left yesterday. Hae-young said that her boyfriend said he was free. Na-rae suddenly said that if Hae-young already had a boyfriend, then what was Sang-sik to her? Hae-young smiled and said that Sang-sik was a good person. He always invited her out to eat or have coffee and even took out the trash and cleaned up dog poop at her house. Na-rae felt helpless after hearing that. She felt that explaining was useless. When Na-rae returned to the office, she told Sang-sik that Hae-young didn't misunderstand anything. Sang-sik finally smiled. Na-rae said bluntly that Hae-young had no feelings for him. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik was extremely angry. He thought Na-rae was deliberately bad-mouthing Hae-young. Because Na-rae liked him, she did that. Na-rae really didn't want to say anything more to San-sik because he wanted to prove Hae-young's feelings for him. San-sik decided to take action tonight. San-sik dressed up as a teddy bear and came before Hae-young. He handed her the bouquet of flowers in his hand. Then Sang-sik prepared to kneel down on one knee to confess his love. At this moment, Hae-young's boyfriend walked over. Hae-young suddenly thought that the teddy bear was Sang-sik. Sang-sik quickly denied it. Unexpectedly, the ring box fell to the ground. Hae-young's boyfriend saw it and asked Sang-sik if he was selling the ring. Then he looked at Sang-sik's outstretched fingers and guessed that the ring cost 80,000 won. When Hae-young's boyfriend was about to take out money to pay, Sang-sik turned around and ran away. Hae-young picked up the ring. She saw Sang-sik's initials on it. Hae-young seemed to have understood something. The next day, Hae-young pulled Sang-sik aside and said that she wanted to talk to him. Sang-sik sat on the chair, panicking and worried, but Hae-young revealed her hands with the ring that Sang-sik gave her. Then Hae-young grabbed Sang-sik's hand and said that she already had a lover, but it was okay because Hae-young could still love Sang-sik. After thinking carefully, Sang-sik went to find Hae-young again. He asked how many lovers she really had. Hae-young raised her hand full of rings. At that moment, 4 men walked in at the same time. Hae-young smiled and said that tonight the two of them should go out to eat together. Sang-sik was really disappointed. At this time, Ma-tan was preparing to threaten Kan-mi when she knew that he was from a rich family. No matter what Kan-mi heard yesterday, she had to forget it all. Unexpectedly, while Kan-mi was swatting mosquitoes, she accidentally cracked the table, scaring Ma-tan. The venomous words he had prepared were not spoken out loud. Ma-tan waited until Kan-mi left before he immediately took out his phone to call someone. Kan-mi rushed in and interrupted him. Then she told him that even if she didn't say anything, he wouldn't be able to hide his identity because his rich aura was very obvious. Sooner or later, everyone would be able to see it. Kan-mi smiled wickedly. She promised to keep this secret. In return, Ma-tan would have to erase all her debts. Facing this oppressive aura, Ma-tan had no other choice. After that, they went to lunch together. Kan-mi found out that Ma-tan didn't lick the lid of his yogurt, so she spoke to him seriously, saying that he was a rich kid just by looking at it. Then, she started to demonstrate for him. Ma-tan's expression was a little confused. In order not to reveal his identity, he would try his best. Deputy head of Department Y walked over and frowned, telling Ma-tan to stop licking. Deputy head of Department Y saw Ma-tan was pitiful, so he even gave Ma-tan his yogurt. Ma-tan was stunned, not understanding what was happening. After work, Kan-mi happily sat down to eat grilled meat with her close friends. Unexpectedly, Ma-tan sat right behind her. After finishing eating, Kan-mi walked on the street, but she kept feeling like someone was following her. Kan-mi swore to Ma-tan that she wasn't drunk this time, so she definitely wouldn't reveal his secret. Ma-tan breathed a sigh of relief. He turned around, got into his secretary's car, and left. But before Ma-tan could fasten his seatbelt, he saw Kan-mi standing on the main road asking everyone if they knew who the successor of Power Group was. Ma-tan was furious. Then Ma-tan turned to ask his secretary if there was any way to make Kan-mi disappear from the face of the earth. At this moment, Kan-mi suddenly rushed forward, startling Ma-tan and the secretary. Kan-mi is truly an untrustworthy person. The next day, when Ma-tan went to work, he unexpectedly met President Gauss in the elevator. When the elevator arrived, Deputy Head of Department Y bowed to the president, but he saw Ma-tan and the president taking a photo. Deputy Head of Department Y angrily called Ma-tan to the office and asked him if he was sober, and why did Ma-tan dare to take a photo with the president. Ma-tan looked at Deputy Head of Department Y's broken and smoking phone, and Ma-tan offered to compensate him with another one. But Deputy Head of Department Y's face showed pain, saying that Ma-tan was in such a miserable state, so where would he get the money to compensate? In order to not reveal his identity, Ma-tan went to find Kan-mi again. Kan-mi told Ma-tan that in the company he had to be humble and be normal like everyone else so that no one would doubt his identity. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik heard that Ma-tan wanted to be humble and immediately got angry. If a new employee did not show himself, he would not be respected. Ma-tan was deep in thought, but before he could decide who to listen to, Deputy Head of Department Y asked him if he had finished his work. Kan-mi frantically signaled to be humble. Ma-tan quickly bowed down, but he saw Sang-sik signaling to show himself. Ma-tan was stuck between the two, which made Deputy Head of Department Y extremely angry. Ma-tan felt a headache. He just wanted to be an ordinary person, but it was too difficult. It turned out that Ma-tan did not want to take over the family business easily. He looked at his father seriously and said that he had not earned a single penny since he was born, so he was not qualified to inherit the power group. Unexpectedly, his father gave him a bill and said that he had already earned 10 million won. But this was not the life Ma-tan wanted, so he joined a competitor company. Ma-tan wanted to succeed on his own, but now he was facing a difficult problem, which was how to hide his identity. Ma-tan walked anxiously to the coffee machine of Deputy Head of Department Y. He heard his colleagues say that if he wanted to drink coffee, he had to buy it here. Ma-tan had never drunk packaged coffee before, so he was a little worried that it would be hard to drink. Unexpectedly, as soon as he drank it, he felt the rich and delicate flavor flavor. Matan did not expect that ordinary people could also enjoy such a delicacy. His colleagues were struggling with the AI speaker taken from the power group. The male colleague looked down on it. He thought it was a waste of money to buy something so trivial. Matan could not help but say that this was the ambitious product of the power group. Then he started to introduce it nonstop. His colleagues were extremely surprised. Why did Matan understand it so well? At this time, a female colleague said that this speaker could distinguish the voice of President Beck of the power group. Matan laughed and denied that this product did not have that function. Unexpectedly, the AI speaker directly recognized Matan as the chairman, making him very helpless. A colleague was testing the speaker when suddenly there was a problem. The speaker that had just started playing music could not be turned off. Matan saw this and quickly went over to check. Unexpectedly, when Matan spoke, the speaker immediately said hello to the chairman. Matan panicked and quickly grabbed the speaker and prepared to turn it off. Unexpectedly, the speaker kept introducing Matan as the heir to the power group. Fortunately, Kangmi ran over and punched the speaker, breaking it into pieces. The colleagues standing around were stunned, not understanding what was happening. Matan was extremely touched. He approached Kangmi and said that he did not know how to continue living here, but now it seemed like he had found happiness. Kangmi thought Matan was talking about her. It turned out that the joy he was talking about was the can of coffee she was drinking. After work, Deputy Head of Department Y asked Matan to go take a hot bath. Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly dove into the water and said that no one would enter a public bath wearing underwear. If the boss here found out, he would definitely be kicked out. Matan's expression was awkward. Did he have to do this to be like a normal person? Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly stood up and asked if Matan had never been to a sauna before. Matan was being exposed, so he had no choice but to obediently listen. But Deputy Head of Department Y suddenly wanted to scrub Matan's back. Hearing a loud noise from behind, Matan felt like a prisoner about to be sentenced to death. Deputy Head of Department Y rubbed hard. Matan's scalp felt numb. A few seconds later, Matan frowned. This feeling was really good. His back felt both painful and pleasant. The dead skin white on his body fell off and piled up. This was a pleasure that even exfoliating with Himalayan pink salt couldn't compare to. Matan's eyes were open. Deputy Head of Department Y's scream woke Matan up. Deputy Head of Department Y said it was his turn now. Matan had no choice but to quietly turn around and start scrubbing Deputy Head of Department Y's back. But Matan kept mumbling, making Deputy Head of Department Y unhappy. Indeed, scrubbing someone else's back also required experience. After that, the two of them went to eat together. But when Matan saw the giant, smelly soybean soup in front of him, he started to get goosebumps. Deputy Head of Department Y felt strange and asked if Matan's mother had never cooked soybean soup for him. Matan said he had never eaten his mother's cooking. Deputy Head of Department felt very sorry for him. Poor Matan had not even eaten his mother's cooking before he had to leave her. Then the deputy director continued, saying that it wasn't Matan's fault that he didn't have parents. He would gradually teach Matan everything. Matan frowned, thinking that he had a private chef at home, so of course his mother had never cooked for him before. Before Matan could think further, Deputy Head of Department Y carefully mixed the soup with rice and then fed it to him. Matan showed a face of suffering and endurance, but suddenly a strange flavor spread throughout his taste buds. Matan did not expect it to be so delicious, so he ate it all deliciously. The two were discussing work when Kangmi challenged Matan to a game of rock, paper, scissors. As a result, Matan was the loser. He could not believe it. Matan was the sole heir of the power group. He was both rich and smart, but he lost this game. Just now, it was Matan's bad luck, not that he did not know how to play. At this time, a male colleague came over to invite everyone to play the game. The loser would be beaten. Sang Sig teased Matan, saying that he did not expect someone to play 14 games and lose everything like him. At this moment, the AI speaker also uttered sarcastic words. Matan was ridiculed by his colleagues, but he had to accept it. But he didn't expect that an AI speaker would dare to mock him. Matan was determined to take revenge. Matan looked in the mirror at the wound on his back. His colleagues' mocking words echoed in his ears. Matan used to dominate the horse racing track. Even boat racing was no match for him. Yet Matan lost these games. He took out his phone and called Kangmi, asking her if she wanted to pay off all her debts. He wanted her to appear in front of him immediately within 3 minutes. Unexpectedly, as soon as he hung up the phone, the doorbell rang. Kangmi appeared in front of his house in a coach's outfit. Matan was bewildered when Kangmi suddenly asked him loudly if he wanted to become the king of games. Matan immediately answered loudly that he wanted to. Then Kangmi threw the outfit and handed it to him. The grueling training began. Quick hands and eyes, climbing the stairs, and rock, paper, scissors. Matan had never tried so hard in his life. He tried so hard that his face turned red, and so Matan practiced persistently all night. The first rays of morning sunlight shone into the room. Kangmi saw Matan moving on slowly. He scissors again. As a result, Matan discussing who would go to the sauna with Deputy Head of Department Y. At this moment, Matan sensitively seized the opportunity. He wanted to play quick hands and eyes to choose the loser. Matan squatted down, thinking to himself that he had won. But the result was that in the bathroom, Matan painfully closed his eyes and rubbed Deputy Head of Department Y's back. It turned out that the new person in the room had no right to use the game to make a choice. While working, Nare's stomach hurt terribly. She wanted to go to the bathroom, but her colleagues kept gathering around her and asking her about one thing after another. Suddenly, her colleagues' faces showed signs of discomfort because they had just smelled someone's fart. Nare looked at her colleagues' expressions in embarrassment. She felt like she didn't know where to hide to get rid of the shame. Unexpectedly, Sun smiled right after that. He had helped her admit her mistake. Her colleagues cursed Sang-sik, but he didn't care. Sang-sik silently put the roll of paper in Nare's hand. Nare looked at Sang-sik, who was staring at the computer. She felt that this hateful man was also really cute. When she got home that night, Nare's mind was still filled with the image of Sang-sik protecting her this morning. Even the TV in front of her seemed to be showing the plot of the two of them. When it was about to show the drama scene, the doorbell suddenly rang. Nare opened the door and saw Sang-sik. It turned out that he bought some pork belly at the supermarket, so he conveniently gave her a box. Unexpectedly, this action made Nare feel very unusual. She slammed the door and asked her close friends. Nare sent a message to two friends and asked them how to determine whether the other person likes her or not. Her close friends quickly gave the answer that whenever she looked at him, she would see him looking at her. Sure enough, Sang-sik was secretly looking at Nare. She panicked and covered her face with the document, but Nare still saw Sang-sik's eyes. She was startled and accidentally dropped the pen. Nare quickly bent down to pick it up. She comforted herself that it was just a coincidence. Sang-sik told Nare that it was really beautiful. Nare shyly opened her eyes to look at him. Unexpectedly, Sang-sik pointed at the Mars lamp in her hand. It turned out that he was praising it, but at this moment, Nare's mind was filled with what her best friend said last night, that after complimenting her on her beauty, he would change the subject. Nare's expression suddenly became serious. She couldn't bear to directly refuse him, so she gave him the Mars lantern in her hand. Sang-sik held her hand and thanked her profusely. Nare thought that he was trying to get close to her. After thinking for a while, she decided to tell him clearly that she thanked him for liking her. But if Sang-sik didn't want to be hurt again, they should stop here. Sang-sik thought that Nare regretted it and wanted to get the Mars lantern back. This made her extremely embarrassed. Nare angrily went to find her two best friends. She told them that Sang-sik only said nonsense things that made her upset. Kamni smiled mysteriously and said that love is like a car accident. It comes when it likes. So there are people who, when love comes, will fall into a denial phase, absolutely denying their feelings. Kamni believes that Nare has fallen into this phase. To confirm whether it is true or not, the first thing is that people will always do the same actions as the person they like. Nare immediately remembers that recently she has been wearing the same clothes as Sun-sik. The two of them looked very much like a couple. Even the movements of crossing their legs and rubbing their necks are similar. Then, Kamni continues to talk about the second principle, which is the artery, the scene where mammals will unconsciously reveal their fragile, weak parts to the person they like to show that they trust and are close to that person. In Nare's mind, images from the past continue to flash, all of which are exactly the same. At this time, Kamni continues to talk about the last thing, which is the navel principle. When talking, Nare will always unconsciously turn her body towards the other person. Nare confirms that she loves Sang-sik. That day, she got drunk and accidentally broke her high heels, so Sang-sik enthusiastically insisted on carrying her home. Unexpectedly, he had only taken a few steps when he heard Haeyoung calling. As a result, he made Nare fall to the ground. She was extremely angry. Nare's pale arms could no longer move. Hearing the doctor say it was late, Nare's face became gloomy. She thought she was going to die. It turned out that they were just too late, affecting the doctor's shift. When leaving the hospital room, Nare scolded Sun-sik that ever since she moved next door to his house, she had only encountered bad luck. Sang-sik quickly apologized and kindly took out a pair of slippers. Nare suddenly stopped being angry when Sang-sik showed her such concern. Unexpectedly, the slippers he brought her were massage slippers. Nare wore Sang-sik's leather shoes. The two of them returned together. Sun-sik kindly held the key to help her open the door. He was also worried that she would be inconvenient to be alone while she was injured. Nare suddenly panicked. She couldn't resist now. If this man suddenly harassed her, she wouldn't know what to do. While she was lost in thought, the nanny that Sun-sik was looking for arrived. Nare was furious when she saw the nanny. a beautiful girl like her. Sansik could trust Aziz to take care of her, but Sansik said that Aziz would work as a nurse in a hospital, so he would definitely take good care of her. The next day, when Aziz finished making grilled meat, the smell immediately made Nare crave it. He put the grilled meat in her mouth. It was really delicious. Suddenly, Nare felt that Aziz's tone sounded like he was talking to a pet. Nare hurriedly asked which hospital Aziz worked at, and as she expected, he worked at a veterinary hospital. Nare angrily scolded Aziz for daring to treat her like a dog. After work, Sansik came to visit Nare, still carrying fried chicken in his hand. But Sansik felt something strange when he looked at Nare. After Sansik fed Nare fried chicken, he kindly brought a cup of water. Unexpectedly, Nare licked the water continuously. This act of drinking water made Sansik unable to hold back his laughter. Nare looked at Sansik with a strange look and asked him what he was laughing at. The next day, Aziz brought a bunch of bags. They were all pet supplies. But he suddenly remembered that he had left something at the supermarket. So Aziz hurriedly ran out. Nare went to look at a pile of things. Then she turned around to chew on the toy. But she accidentally picked up a bank card with the name Lee Sang-sik. It turned out that the reason why Aziz had taken good care of her these past few days and bought her so many good things was because Sang-sik had spent his money to buy them. After Nare knew the truth, she felt confused. When Sang-sik finished work, he was eager to go home immediately, but his colleagues dragged him out to drink. Sang-sik had a hard time finishing his drink. He hurried home and saw the bank card on the table. It was obvious that Nare knew everything. Nare angrily told Sang-sik that he thought she would be happy doing that. Sang-sik wanted to explain, but Nare smelled alcohol on him. Nare thought Sang-sik broke her arm, but he happily went out to eat and drink. So the more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Nare stood up and wanted to chase Sang-sik away, but he was too drunk. Sang-sik begged Nare to calm down. He took responsibility for himself, but every time he saw Haeyoung, Sang-sik couldn't control himself. Nare started to fantasize again. Nare panicked and chased Sang-sik away. Only then did Sang-sik remember that Nare still had to take medicine, so no matter what she said, he had to give her the medicine. Nare looked at Sang-sik like that. Her heart was in turmoil. After Sang-sik gave Nare the medicine, he turned to hold her hand. This time, Sang-sik sincerely apologized to Nare. He had been worried about her all day. His colleagues also asked Sang-sik what had happened, but he didn't know how to answer. Looking at Sang-sik in front of him, Nare suddenly became emotional. She wanted the two of them to clear things up. Before Sang-sik could understand what Nare meant, she suddenly kissed him on the lips. Sang-sik looked at Nare in surprise. He still didn't understand what had just happened. Nare sighed and said Sang-sik was really useless. Matan was being very serious when a spy appeared next to him. This morning, his rich father suddenly told him everything he did at Gauss. So that means someone must report all of Matan's actions to him. Matan thought for a long time but couldn't figure out who it was. Deputy head of Department Y always acted very ostentatiously towards Matan. He was so kind that he was most likely creating a cover to hide the truth. As for Sang-sik, Matan thought that such a fool couldn't be an insider, but it was also possible that he was pretending. Manager lost all his money in the stock market, so money would be a motivation for a needy person like him. Manager Sung always had a cold appearance. Maybe this was just her pretense. Matan looked around the meeting room and felt that everyone could be a suspect. After the meeting ended, Matan was about to tell his secretary to investigate when he accidentally heard Kanmi talking on the phone. Matan started to suspect her again. At this time, Kanmi suddenly discovered that Matan was eavesdropping on her. He could only pretend that he had just arrived, but Kanmi seemed to be panicking. She hurriedly pushed the door open and walked out. Matan recalled what had happened since they met. Kanmi's acting was awkward, and their meeting was too coincidental. This possibility was very high. Matan picked up the phone and asked the other party to prepare all the information about Kanmi for him within 3 minutes. Matan sat in the car and opened Kanmi's resume. This was when she was losing weight. Kanmi knew many different martial arts such as judo, taekwondo, and aikido. In the experience column, the content was all related to her internship at Power. Sure enough, all the clues showed that Kanmi was related to Matan's father. The secretary timidly reminded Matan that not everything with the word power on it belonged to his family. Matan glared at the secretary. The most important thing was that Kanmi had to send money to her grandmother every month. Someone who was short of money like her would definitely have more motivation to earn money. Sure enough, everything matched. Matan guessed that Kanmi would definitely contact his father at 8 o'clock tonight. The secretary and Matan carefully followed behind Kanmi. The two of them thought they had followed them very discreetly and perfectly, but in the end, Kanmi still discovered them. In the end, Matan had to get out of the car and chase her himself. He chased her to a small alley. Unexpectedly, there were 4 fierce thugs. Matan whistled and pretended that nothing happened. He wanted to sneak past them to escape, but he was stopped. The thugs complimented that his clothes looked very classy. Then they surrounded Matan and stripped him of all his clothes. Matan Matan revealed his identity, but of course the thugs didn't believe that he was the son of the chairman of Power Group. Matan walked down the street in a daze. Finally, Matan found Kangmi. He had just called out to her when suddenly his pants fell down. Kangmi thought Matan was a pervert, so she hit him. Kangmi lowered her head to look, and unexpectedly, it was Matan. She quickly sat down and patted his face. Kangmi asked Matan what he was doing here. Then she gave him a green tracksuit to change into. Kangmi told Matan that there were a lot of strange people around here. At this time, Matan looked at Kangmi, and before she could understand, she was about to lead him away. Unexpectedly, the thugs from before suddenly appeared again. Matan quickly pointed at them and showed Kangmi that they were the ones who robbed his clothes. The thugs, of course, didn't know Kangmi's fighting ability. They saw that Matan was too easy to bully, so they also wanted to snatch the things in Kangmi's hands. The two of them were fighting back and forth when suddenly a mosquito racket flew out of the bag. Kangmi angrily said that if her newly bought mosquito racket broke, they would pay the price. Matan quickly hid behind Kangmi, but he still didn't feel safe enough, so Matan hugged the electric bowl. Kangmi rushed forward. She gently dealt with the thugs. Then Kangmi grabbed the girl on the opposite side, which surprised Matan. Matan watched Kangmi show off her power in dealing with the bad guys, and Matan was stunned by her charisma. He ran quickly to Kangmi. Unexpectedly, two motorbikes suddenly appeared. They were the thugs' backup. Kangmi grabbed Matan and urged him to run away. Today was the first time Matan went on a business trip with Sang-sik. When preparing to leave, Sang-sik, who was in charge of driving, politely said that it would be a long time before they arrived, so Matan could rest for a while. Unexpectedly, Matan lay down, which made Sang-sik dissatisfied. He said that although he didn't want to use his position to oppress the newcomer, logically, when the superior was driving, Matan sitting in the passenger seat had the responsibility to talk to him. Matan suddenly woke up and felt that he was being a bit rude, so he decided to sit in the back, making Sang-sik even angrier. He felt like he was taking his boss on a business trip. Sang-sik pretended to calm, but Matan didn't even bother to look. After a while, Matan returned to the passenger seat. Matan looked at Sang-sik, who was yawning because he was sleepy, so he asked Sang-sik if he needed him to call a driver to drive instead. Sang-sik laughed and said that their business trip allowance wasn't enough to pay for a hired driver, but Matan said that the driver he called was free, so Sang-sik agreed. So Matan called his secretary. Unexpectedly, the secretary said that the chairman had ordered that as long as Matan hadn't returned to Power Group, he shouldn't expect to receive any support from his family. Matan suddenly felt a bit scared. Sang-sik thought Matan was bragging. Young people always like to show off, so Sang-sik could understand. At this time, the two of them arrived at the partner company to prepare for a meeting. Unexpectedly, a foreign VIP guest arrived. As soon as he saw him, he said Matan was a prince. The VIP guest also said that he had seen Matan on TV. Matan was a bit startled. Matan quickly greeted him in German. Matan said that he came here as an employee of the Gauss Group, not as the heir of the Power Group. So Matan hoped that he would not reveal Matan's true identity. The VIP guest thought that Matan was filming a spy boss show, but he still agreed to help Matan keep it a secret. Matan breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly said that he had met this guest before when he was traveling abroad. He did not expect that today they would have the chance to meet again. Not expect that at this time the VIP guest would say that he did not know Matan at all. Sang-sik was so surprised that he quickly pressed Matan's head down to apologize to the VIP guest. He didn't expect Matan to dare to lie in front of the partner. That night, Sang-sik took Matan to a motel. Matan had never stayed in such a small motel before, so he was very curious. He asked the boss which floor the gym was on. The boss was confused, thinking that Matan wanted to cause trouble. Matan could only take out his bank card to pay. The boss wanted to go crazy. It was just a small amount of change, but Matan wanted to swipe the card. The boss swiped the card to pay and told Matan that the card was locked. It turned out that his family had really cut off all support. Sang-sik felt more and more that Matan was unusual. Sang-sik told Matan that if he needed help, just tell him. Sang-sik and Matan returned from their business trip. The two of them were still able to attend their colleague's appointment. Matan kept staring at Kangmi. This time, no matter what, he couldn't let her drink alcohol. Kangmi smiled and told him not to worry, because this time she would only drink water and not touch a drop of alcohol. When the party was almost over, Matan suddenly discovered that his colleague's actions meant that Kangmi was drinking alcohol. At this moment, she pulled the doorknob. Then Kangmi pressed pause and grabbed the microphone. Matan panicked and wanted to stop her. Unexpectedly, the two people sitting next to him kept clinging to him. No matter how Matan struggled, he couldn't escape. Drunk Kangmi shouted to everyone that today she had a secret that she had to tell. She said that she had finished a plate of chicken noodles outside. outside before coming here. Matan had just breathed a sigh of relief when Kanmi suddenly continued saying that Matan had never eaten chicken gizzards before. Matan panicked and reached for the remote and deliberately turned up the volume to create noise, but couldn't stop Kanmi from continuing. She said that he was the heir to the power group. Matan was in utter despair. At this moment, all his colleagues turned to look at him. They couldn't believe it. Deputy head of Department Y also sat up and asked who Matan was. At this moment, Sansik told a few stories about his business trip. Matan said that he had a personal driver and that he even knew VIP customers from his partner, but it was all bullshit. This made all his colleagues laugh out loud. Matan didn't know whether to be happy or sad. He thought he had been exposed, but these people didn't believe him. At this moment, Matan looked at Kang Mi. Now, Matan finally understood. No wonder his heart always beat fast when he was with Kang Mi. It turned out that it was all because of the pressure she created. Matan was always on guard. Matan waited until Kang Mi woke up and asked her if she was really drunk or if she was following his father's instructions. What was her call the day before about power and money? Kang Mi was confused because she was talking about her mosquito racket that day. Matan was confused, so he deliberately changed the subject. He blamed her for putting too much pressure on him. Kang Mi was surprised. Matan was also a bit confused. He didn't say anything and continued to probe. Suddenly, the two of them stood still. It took a long time for Kang Mi to react. Kang Mi slapped Matan. Matan touched his face and looked at Kang Mi with an incredulous expression. Matan didn't understand what this heartbreaking feeling was. At this time, Sansik and Nare were showing affection to each other, but were seen by Aziz. Aziz even congratulated them on their rapid progress. Nare frantically explained that it was just a misunderstanding. That year, when she was in France, she liked to greet others like that. Aziz wondered and asked again who would greet him while burying their heads so deeply. Nare was embarrassed, so she changed the subject. She said that her hand had been casted off, so she didn't need their care anymore. Nare sent the two of them home. Unexpectedly, Aziz smiled and said before leaving, "Didn't you greet him? If Nare's eyes could kill, Aziz would have died long ago." But he was still not satisfied. This greeting was different from Sansik's. Sangsik quickly pushed Aziz away. At this time, Sangsik was lying on the bed, but his mind was filled with the scene just now. The more Sangsik thought about it, the more embarrassed he became. He couldn't hold it in anymore, so he sent a message to Nare, but Sangsik didn't know what to say. If he confessed right away, it would be a bit abrupt. If he asked her what the kiss just now meant, he was afraid it would be a bit silly. After thinking for a while, Sansik decided to text her an apology. Nare had waited so long, but he only texted her 2 words. She angrily punched the air. On the other side, Sansik was preparing a clever confession. Unexpectedly, Nare angrily said that she had taken the wrong medicine. She even made him explain to Aziz. The next day, Sansik accidentally met Nare in front of the elevator. He felt like she was emitting a halo. Sansik was absent-mindedly thinking. Then he turned to look at Hayoung, whom he had liked, and he felt that she was very ordinary. In the meeting, everyone was discussing about product discounts for couples, but how to confirm whether they were really a couple or not. A colleague said that just kissing was enough. Sansik said that in this day and age, kissing doesn't prove that 2 people are a couple. He even deliberately asked Nare if that was true. Nare quickly nodded. Then she leaned back in her chair and said that in this day and age, even if they weren't a couple, they could still kiss. All the colleagues were confused, not knowing what happened to these 2 people. At this moment, Kangmi suddenly said that she had a friend who wanted to find a lover, and she wanted to introduce Sansik to her friend. Nare's reaction was extremely fierce. Nare quickly explained that she didn't want Kangmi's friend to waste too much time. Unexpectedly, Sansik said that he wanted to go. Sansik was about to go on a blind date as soon as he got off work. Nare finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She asked him if he really wanted to go. Sansik hesitated for a while, and then asked if Nare felt uncomfortable. She shyly denied it. Unexpectedly, Sangsik immediately happily turned around and left, leaving Nare standing there, angry. Sangsik had never been on a date before, so he was a bit awkward. He was about to take a sip of wine to relieve his tension when he suddenly saw Nare in his glass of wine. So Sangsik threw the glass of wine straight into her face. He hurriedly took a tissue to wipe her face, making her understand that he thought she was ugly. Sangsik couldn't take it anymore, so he told Nare directly that he couldn't do anything recently. Every time he opened his eyes, he saw her figure. He asked her if the kiss that day was just an accident. Unexpectedly, Nare got angry and said that he was the one who apologized first. Sansik had already said that, so what else could she say? He was stunned and quickly explained that the reason he apologized was because it was his first kiss, so he was afraid that she would think he wasn't a good kisser. Nare saw that he was already an adult but had no experience in love. Sansik's expression became serious. Because Aziz had ruined it that day, Sangsik felt that neither of them could truly confirm each other's feelings. The only way to be sure was to try again. Nare suddenly felt a little panicked, so she awkwardly changed the subject. Sangsik didn't let Nare complain anymore. He took the initiative to approach and kiss her. In Korea, there is a legend that when the coldest girl in the company smiles, no matter how difficult project is, it will be successful. In order to make Manager Sung smile, Deputy Head of Department Y tried to make a scene. He suddenly bent down. All his colleagues burst out laughing, but Manager Sung kept his cold face. Deputy Head of Department Y didn't know what to do to make her smile. Sansik pretended to go next to Nare. He deliberately revealed the couple watch on his hand. Unexpectedly, Nare's expression changed. She told him not to think too much because the two of them weren't a couple yet. Sansik said they had kissed twice already. Unexpectedly, Nare quickly covered his mouth. It turned out that Ma Tan was passing by. Ma Tan saw that the two of them were a bit shy, so he told them not to pay attention to him. So the two of them started using signals to talk to each other. Nare looked angry and said, "How can you guys just like that want to sign an exclusive contract? Her company has only had social cooperation with other companies for the past 5 years. It's hard to ask Nare to change now." Sang-sik hurriedly said that they had cooperated with each other twice already. The two of them glanced at Matan standing behind them. Nare sighed and continued that about this part, the two companies still needed to negotiate further. Sang-sik heard that and immediately asked they could discuss it further tonight so that it would be better for future cooperation. Nare nodded and told Sang-sik to send her the time and location to discuss via email. Matan stood behind them. He looked at the two of them and felt that something was very strange. They really didn't seem like they were discussing work. Sang-sik looked at Matan across from him and suddenly asked if Matan had ever been in love. Matan shook his head and then asked Sang-sik if he had a girlfriend. Sang-sik looked embarrassed and said that it was fine. Sang-sik told Matan that when he meets someone who makes him smile just thinking about them, or even makes his heart beat faster when he sees them, then he will understand what love feels like. Matan suddenly recalled the moment he moved things at the company this morning. Kang-mi accidentally touched Matan's hand, making his heart beat faster. Matan asked Sansik if this was the feeling of love. Sansik quickly nodded and told Matan to treat the girl who made him feel that way. But Matan said that he had someone he was engaged to. Of course, Sansik thought that Matan was starting to brag again. That night, the colleagues gathered to drink. Sang-sik secretly called Nare out and said that he wanted to talk about the two of them. Nare told Sang-sik that her thoughts were very simple. She didn't want to be someone else's substitute, so she hoped that the two of them would calm down to make sure that this wasn't because they were lonely for too long and had illusions about each other. When leaving the karaoke bar, Sansik suddenly remembered that he had forgotten his documents at company. Nare was preparing to go home alone when Sansik said that he didn't dare to go to the company at night. Nare was very helpless. She didn't expect that he was this old and still afraid of the dark. Sansik said that without her, what would he do? Both of them felt that there was something hidden in their words. Nare quickly said that she wasn't an easy girl. Unexpectedly, he looked at her without blinking. Then, he picked up the lip balm and applied it to his lips. Nare swallowed, and they passionately rushed into each other. Because the desk was small, Nare pushed Sansik to another place, and then they continued to rush into each other. The office files were scattered all over the floor. In a moment, the small room could no longer hold two people. They continued to rush into the meeting room. The two people were so intimate that there was no room left. At this moment, two bewildered heads popped up from under the table. They looked at Sansik and Nare hugging each other and were very confused. Deputy Head of Department Y staggered forward. Sansik and Nare were both extremely panicked. They thought they had been discovered. Unexpectedly, Deputy Head of Department Y drunkenly asked if they were fighting. Deputy Head of Department Y looked at Sansik and said that Nare was his senior after all, so he had to be a little more tolerant. Sansik nodded repeatedly, but Manager Ma stood up and asked what happened to Sangsik's lips. Nare was extremely embarrassed. Deputy Head of Department Y thought that Sansik had been beaten by Nare, so he pulled the two of them to sit down and poured a glass of wine, telling them to make up. Sansik immediately drained his glass and said that the two of them would absolutely not fight again in the future. Manager Ma suddenly sat up and said clearly that they had kissed. Nare pushed Manager Ma down on the table to stop him from continuing. The next day, Sansik and Nare squeezed into the elevator. Seeing that there were many people, he suddenly had a bad idea. Sansik felt the warmth from the hand and smiled happily. His fingers couldn't help but poke it, but Sansik turned his head and found that it was the department head's hand. Sansik was embarrassed and said that the department head's hand was a bit cold, so he needed to take care of himself. To prevent awkward situations like this from happening again, Sansik designed a set of signals specifically for the two of them. Blinking twice meant liking each other. Blinking 3 times meant going to meet each other. But it was enough. Sansik felt that he was very smart, so his colleagues definitely wouldn't be able to find out. So the two of them kept winking at each other during work hours, making their colleagues think something was wrong with them. The two of them had to use the excuse that the office was a bit dry recently to avoid them. At this time, Kang Mi was getting the in the cabinet when she suddenly discovered that the bottle of wine that was placed there earlier had disappeared. Deputy head of Department Y was the first to speak up and chased Kangmi back to her seat because it was working hours and she was asking random questions. Unexpectedly, Manager Sung knew at a glance that something was wrong. Manager Sung suspected that Deputy head of Department Y was the one who stole it. Deputy head of Department Y quickly denied it. Manager Sung glanced over and saw that Nare seemed panicked, so he suspected her. Nare also quickly stood up to deny it, but Manager Sung calmly said it was okay. Just check the surveillance camera and you'll know right away. Nare smiled awkwardly and wondered if someone had really installed a surveillance camera in the office. Manager Sung pointed to the camera. At this moment, half of the people in the office were confused. No one wanted to have their surveillance camera checked, but Manager Sung didn't care. She told Kang Mi to call the security department to extract the surveillance camera. Najee panicked and kicked her high heels aside. Even Kang Mi had to be stopped by Nare. Before everyone's surprised eyes, San Sik snatched the phone from Kang Mi's hand. Then he put on his sunglasses and admitted that he was the one who stole the wine. Yesterday after the meal, San Sik returned to the company and secretly took out some wine to drink. Then San Sik pulled down his glasses and signaled Nare to scold him. Nare looked miserable and didn't want to, but San Sik still signaled Nare to continue. So Nare started scolding San Sik badly. Everyone gathered around to beat him up. San Sik endured the pain and blinked at Nare twice. Then San Sik walked into the office with a serious expression and told Nare that he had finished the data. Nare opened it and saw that it was a weekend dateland for the two of them. On the second page, Sang Sik had diligently written down the issues that needed to be taken care of in a relationship. In order to avoid anyone suspecting them, they would thoroughly implement a guerrilla strategy. From today on, they would begin this tense and exciting office romance. Matan had just received his salary, but the money in his account kept being deducted. Matan was startled, thinking that there was a thief. He hadn't done anything yet, and his salary had disappeared. Manager Mall walked by and laughed heartily, saying that this was too normal for people who worked for them. Once the salary was received, it would be automatically transferred to the service providers and credit cards, and in the end, there would be nothing left. Matan was now cornered, so he started to calculate. His salary was 2.5 million won. He had to spend at least 7.5 million won every month. Kangmi almost fainted looking at the bill. Matan's rent alone cost 3 million won. Luckily, he was from a rich family. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have enough money to live on. Matan frowned, thinking that his father wouldn't support him anymore, so he didn't know how to live in the future. Matan had to ask Kangmi for help. She removed a zero from each of his spending items. Matan didn't expect that to be enough to live on. Kangmi told him that if office workers wanted to earn more money, overtime was indispensable. Matan nodded and remembered, so he went to find Deputy Head of Department.
God bless
Asked him to pay him
everyone.
overtime and travel allowance. Deputy Head of